Hello, welcome to my presentation of John Snow and the Cholera Outbreak of London 1854. I will be giving insights to John Snow's studies and the connection of patterns shown in data layers in ArcGIS. I am Sarah Bruce, a student at the University of St. Thomas. The Epidemiology of Cholera, written by Roger Glass and Robert Black. Cholera, the most feared of the classic epidemic diseases. Cholera is extremely deadly, able to affect entire communities within weeks of introduction. With modern medicine, cholera can be treated with proper hydration and antibiotics, but the spread of the disease is still a problem that we face today. Public health measures are used to control the spread of the disease. These measures have been concluded from observations made in the 19th century. Though preventative measures have been used, an understanding of epidemiology is more valuable in preventing the spread of cholera. From the Center for Spatially Integrated Social Science, Scott Crozier wrote on John Snow, the London Cholera Epidemic of 1854, CSISS Classics. John Snow grew up and studied medicine. Intrigued by the deaths and spread of cholera, Snow used mapping and early epidemiology to determine the spread of cholera through contaminated water. In 1849, Snow published a pamphlet on the mode of communication of cholera, where he proposed his findings, though because of the lack of knowledge, he was unable to prove his theory. In 1854, cholera struck again, and Snow was able to plot the locations of deaths related to cholera, and found that one location was the source. An AGU journal, Prediction of the Spatial Evolution and Effects of Control Measures for the Unfolding Haiti Cholera Outbreak. I wanted to briefly touch on how prevalent cholera is in our society today. The spread of cholera did not conclude in London in 1854. Haiti is seeing a cholera outbreak that is affecting individuals within communities. Those researchers studying this outbreak are exhibiting spatial patterns that call for a suitable modeling framework. Specifically, a complex set of processes known to drive the dispersion of cholera. This modern-day problem ties into the research John Snow completed and the research I have completed. I used John Snow's research and ArcGIS modeling to map cholera outbreaks in London in 1854 to understand how the locations of cholera deaths are related to pump data. I did this by mapping cholera deaths, general trade areas, and the mean number of deaths by trade area. I replicated Snow's research by using pump data, general trade areas, and cholera deaths to create zonal statistics to find the mean number of deaths by trade area. Now, specifically mapping cholera deaths, one can determine the cholera death density and the mean center of the deaths that were present. The mean center is the center of concentration of the deaths. The mapped deaths will also present the standard deviational ellipse, which indicates where the cholera deaths were most concentrated. So again, the cholera deaths are the black dots, and the different intensity of the red corresponds with the density of the deaths in that cell. The mean center is the yellow dot, and the standard deviational ellipse is the yellow circle, where the cholera deaths were most concentrated. Looking at this portion of the model, it looks at pump data and the general trade areas present. I also chose to include the cholera deaths data layer in this model, for it can help in the understanding of how these two layers connect and will produce the mean number of deaths by trade area. This map includes the data that was previously talked about, but now includes the water pumps. Those are the blue dots. The different shading of green is the mean number of deaths present, light green being the lowest value, and the dark green being a high value of the mean number of deaths. The black line represents the general trade areas, showing what pump was used by what population. Looking at the GIS modeling and processes, one can conclude the location of the contaminated water pump, Broad Street. I can conclude this from looking at cholera deaths, density of cholera deaths, the mean center of deaths, the mean number of deaths, the standard deviational ellipse, and the general trade areas. Snow's research has brought us an understanding to resolving social problems through spatial analysis, and an understanding of mapping as an essential approach to epidemiology. These are methods that are still used today.